It's Car Kicks! Classics, custom, sports cars, and trucks. Plus news, great places to go, and products you'll love. Don't forget to check us out on the web at carkicks.com. That's KARKIX.com, and on Facebook and Twitter. Now, here's the host of Car Kicks, Bob Lang.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Car Kicks. This week, we continue the history of Dodge, and we find two very rare and beautiful automobiles. That and more on this edition of Car Kicks. But before we roll into today's show, let's take a look at some current events. As in electric current, Tesla Motors unveiled its third child, and a $5,000 deposit is all you need to start the adoption papers for the crossover that the company calls the Model X. It looks really, really cool. The all-aluminum electric, which shares about a little more than half of its parts with the company's Model S sedan, will not only be the industry's first battery-powered SUV when it goes into production in 2014, it'll also introduce a new wrinkle on the overhead door system made famous by Mercedes Gullwings. The Tesla Model X will also have high performance with a 0 to 60 time of 4.4 seconds for the top-of-the-line model that has their biggest and most powerful battery pack. And that's 0.2 faster than a Porsche 911 Carrera, so not bad for an electric SUV. Tesla is hoping to get rid of some of this range anxiety that people have with full electrics. So it comes with about 200 miles of range, and it has an optional battery pack that'll take it out to 285 miles. The all-wheel drive Model X, which carries two electric motors and a more complex power and torque management system than the rear-wheel drive model, will be pricier still. Customer deliveries of the Model S will begin in July, and production of the Model X to start late 2013, with regular deliveries in early 2014. The design permits an opening that enables a 6-footer to stand upright on the floor of the car beneath the raised doors. Why you would do that, I don't know, but you could. The 120 cars in the Saab Heritage Museum have been spared their auction following the automaker's bankruptcy filing. The museum's fleet of rare automobiles, representing more than 60 years of work, was supposed to be sold off at auction to the highest bidder on the 23rd of January, and all the proceeds go to creditors. But according to the January 25th edition of ClassicDriver.com, the city of Trollhättan got together with Saab's former parent company and the Marcus Amelia Wallenberg Memorial Fund and came up with approximately $3.9 million to satisfy the receivers, and so they're going to keep it open in the current place. In spite of the incredible soap opera-style drama over the last couple of years, it may not be the end of the road for Saab. Under Swedish law, the company can be brought out of bankruptcy. And there are at least 5 parties right now that have shown an interest, including Chinese carmaker Youngman, India's Mahindra Squared, the Turkish private equity firm of Brightwell Holdings. Now, those are the leaders that we know about. I think the money's on Youngman to win the race. Nissan showed up at the Chicago show with its 2013 Z car. I know that the automotive press is going to say it's just a freshen up, but for some reason it tripped my notice button. It just seemed to tug at my heartstring for my old 240Z, or they refined the look just enough. But while the rest of the auto press is going to say it's just freshened up, I'm going to say it's tuned in with a strong signal to this radio guy. More recap from the Chicago show. Kia showed its Trackster concept, keeping its fingers in the recreational use vehicle category. Contoured seats, modular instruments, and grab rail handles combined with a 3-color interior to give it an action-ready look. Now, to me, it looks like a Soul with much more soul. The Ram Truck Group showed up with their own playground, complete with hills and barricades. It looked like fun. 2013 GMC Acadia keeps the family resemblance and tries to catch up on the competition. Lexus displayed the LFLC concept car, and I predict if this little baby LFA makes it to the market, when it hits the showroom, even in a toned-down production model, they will not stay in the showroom. You may see waiting lists for this one. A baby LFA is just what the doctor ordered. Okay, so I'm not a real doctor. The Dodge Dart we told you about long ago was on stage in full light, and it looks a lot more like an Alpha than a Dodge Dart. We're all really happy about that.
Coming up next, Well, why not just stay right there and find out? Car Kicks will be right back.
Hi, this is Gary Patterson from Shelby American, and you're getting your Car Kicks.
Now buckle up, because here we go.
Ellis Martin on his Sunday sabbatical to the $1 Million Breakfast Club came upon a rare Bentley Mallalieu Special. One reborn at the hands of a modern-day master recycler of 40s Bentleys. This 1948 Bentley Mark VI chassis was taken by Englishman Dodge Mallalieu and made into a modern-day special in the 1970s. Since the old Bentley bodies rusted away in a drop of rain, it wasn't hard to find donor chassis. The one Ellis happened upon has an all-aluminum handmade body and is one of 5 two-seaters built. All sold in Pasadena by Jim Rickman, one of America's British car specialty dealers. Of the 5 cars, 3 went back to England, where the Mallalieu legend is a little bit larger. 2 two-seaters were built as the Murcia. Its sister model, the Barchetta, was slightly more numerous with about 30 made. They all date from the mid-late 70s and were quite expensive in their day, coming not far short of the price of a new Bentley T2 of the era. The Bentley Mallalieu Special had 200 pounds of torque in a 3,000-pound car, so they're spry and high-speed capable. The wheelbase is longer than a Le Mans, as in Pontiac Le Mans. Dodge Mallalieu won the Jean Bugatti Trophy in the late 50s for the best race performance in a Bugatti and went on to be one of the first of the Bentley Mark VI special builders, certainly one of the most prolific. Dodge Mallalieu had a garage on Cross Street in Norwalk, Connecticut from about 1959 to 1963. Some garage. He imported or worked on cars including several 1750 Alphas, 2 2300 Alphas, an Alpha P3, and then there were the Talbot Lago 4.5s, the 4.5 Bentleys, the 4.5 blown Bentleys, the Speed 6, and the 8-liter, an early competition Berlinetta Ferrari, a 250mm, a Rolls-Royce P2 Continental, and according to witnesses, more Bugattis than you could shake a stick at. There were other cars in his life as well. Hank Rudkin of Pepperidge Farm had a 750cc Saab Racer worked on there. It was just down the road from Alden Sherman's machine shop. Now, Mr. Sherman is known for going grocery shopping in a Type 37 Bugatti that he revived as a younger man. He's a machinist and an inventor, and he was able to rebuild them, fabricating many of the missing parts from factory drawings and from close examinations of complete Bugattis. The worst of the 2 cars took most of 17 years to put back on the road, and if he's still alive, he's 92 or 3, something like that. But he's another story for another day. Back to Dodge Mallalieu. Dodge went back to Abingdon, Oxfordshire, England, with the idea of building a lot of cars in the late 60s, and he started Mallalieu Motors. With lots of rusty Mark VI Bentleys around and their separate chassis, it was ideal for the construction of a sports car, and a number of firms did rebody and coachwork cars in the 1970s, but these few Mallalieu are widely sought after. He modded the frames, added a wing-style fender, long hood, and right-hand gear shift. The car looked like a lower version of the Bentleys of the 30s. Dodge hand-built a total of 34 cars to order. These cars were not cheap. About $18,000 for a Barchetta and $30,000 for a Murcia in 1977. This is when a new Caddy or a new Lincoln was about $7,500. But their prices reflected the time it took to hand-build the cars. 4 months for a Barchetta, 6 for a Murcia. They were exclusive, offering vintage grand touring without vintage reliability headaches. There were even the options of aluminum disc wheels, high-geared rear axles for touring, and a supercharger. The Barchetta was built in '74, but Mallalieu already had plans for a 2-seater with flowing wings to be called the Murcia, and later the Oxford. Unfortunately, he died in 1975 and never saw the new car, but his company completed them in 1976. And I believe this is the car Ellis came upon. By this time, demand for both models, especially from the United States, had Mallalieu's company one of the biggest Mark VI conversion firms, if not the biggest, in the world. In 1980, the Mallalieu Company built a one-off car for an American client, John White's, called the X600. It was Camaro-based, built specially to order by the Mallalieu Company, but by early 1981, the firm was experiencing financial problems and went out of business. It left behind a legacy of several dozen special Bentley sports cars. Here's Ellis Martin with the owner of the finest example known to exist.
I'm with Dave Bugan, and what year is this Bentley, sir?
The chassis is in 1948. It's a Mark VI.
What is unique about this particular car? besides its beautiful appearance?
It's just, there's two in the United States, this one and the one on the West Coast, and they're very, very desirable in England. People here don't know much about them because they don't know who Mallalieu is, of course. But it's just a really fun car. It handles very, very well with the perfect balance. Got a lot of horsepower because originally it was a 5,000 pound sedan. Now it weighs about 3,000, right at 3,000 pounds. And I restored the car about 4 or 5 years ago now, and did the whole chassis and engine compartment, and redid the interior and dashboard and all that. Just made it, you know, a little prettier and more refined. And it's just a great car. You can drive it. It'll cruise at 70 or 80 on the freeway. It handles beautifully, and it's a lot of fun. And it gets a lot of attention, obviously. It has, you know, the old servo brakes, and it has, you know, it's right-hand drive, but the shifter is on the right, which makes it a little easier than some of the cars. And it drives quite nicely. It's not like a lot of old cars. It does well in the heat. Has tons of torque. You don't hardly ever have to shift it when you slow down. It just pulls like crazy. And yeah, it's a very, very drivable, fun, especially for its age. It's wonderful.
Let's take a look at this engine, Dave. Tell us about those carburetors.
Well, they're just standard SU carbs like you see on every British car. The engine's a 4 1/4 liter 6-cylinder, which Bentley used from the 30s all the way through the 50s. It's a bulletproof, wonderful motor. And they don't really rate the horsepower, probably somewhere around 100 horse, but about 200 pounds of torque, which is what really gives the car great drivability, and a 4-speed transmission. But you can see in the engine compartment, they were never afraid to develop linkages. If you look on the steering column, it's just a maze of linkage. And that runs on the steering wheel. There's 3 levers. One's the choke, not really a choke and an enrichener, and one is a hand throttle, and one is to control the suspension. You can actually control the ride of the car from the steering wheel, adjust it for firmer or softer.
Dave, thanks very much for joining us today on Car Kicks.
You're welcome. It's a lot of fun to run into people who love interesting cars, and this one is unique and interesting.
Dave has the finest known example of this fun, historic vehicle. It's a blend of an old chassis and modern craftsman hand-building a beauty. Kind of like Cher and her surgeons, huh? I hope we brought the Mallalieu specials to life for you. Oh, and thanks to Barry Harmon of Connecticut on Autobanter.com for bringing part of this history to life for us. Coming up on Car Kicks, not content with finding one extremely rare car, our roving correspondent found another unique design. A street car that handles as good at 120 as it does at 60, with an old heart and a racing heritage.
We'll be right back with more Car Kicks.
The Blackhawk Automotive Galleries are like no place you've ever experienced. Located an hour southeast of San Francisco in Danville, California, the Blackhawk encompasses nearly 70,000 square feet. With 4 exhibition galleries, an automotive reference library, and a museum store, plus a special events area and meeting room. The Blackhawk is a Smithsonian affiliate museum, open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more about the Blackhawk at blackhawkmuseum.org. See you there. The Dodge family started in America in the 1630s, and they became known as really great machinists. When they moved to Detroit, Ransom Olds contracted them to make parts for his curved dash Olds, and Henry Ford actually contracted the Dodge brothers to build all the parts for the Model T except the buckboard wood seat and the tires, because Henry was all about the process, getting the manufacturing process together. Meanwhile, the brothers were really getting good at making car parts, and when they had their breakup with Ford, they built their own car. Now, they survived until 1920 when they passed away, and their wives kept the car company for a couple more years, and they sold to a Wall Street firm. Then that Wall Street firm sold to Walter P. Chrysler, who kept the Dodge name going as a separate brand inside the Chrysler family all through the Depression. In 1933, Dodge took 4th place in sales with 86,000 cars sold. By the mid-30s, they had independent coil front suspension, steel wheels, And as Dodge moved into the 40s, fluid drive, developed earlier by Chrysler, was made available to a lower-priced car for the first time in the 1941 Dodge. Power was transferred from the engine to the transmission by fluids with no metal connection. From 1942 to 1946, the war shifted Dodge to vehicles for the war effort, like many other makers. From 1946 to 1948, the post-war demand for cars was so great that designs were really little changed. Then evolution took hold and running boards were gone and fenders flowed into doors. It would be hard to imagine, though, the boom in America that was to come. Dodge was becoming known for a smooth ride and innovations like textured materials that reduced glare. In the 1953 model year, Dodge brought out its first V8 engine offering hemispherical combustion chambers, the famous 140 horsepower Red Ram. With an average of 23.4 miles per gallon, it topped all the other V8s in the Mobile Economy run. If you remember the Mobile Economy run, you're an experienced American. 1954 added PowerFlight, Dodge's first fully automatic transmission. With the end of the 50s, the fin was in. Take a look at the 57 Dodge Royal. They took flamboyant space-age styling even beyond the 57 Chevy. The Dodge automobiles from 1957 to 1963 are bold designs and showed that Dodge not only could make a Hemi, but wrap it in style too. The Lancer, a compact car, was introduced in 1961. The company soon produced three basic sizes: the semi-compact Dart, the bigger Coronets, and the full-size Polara and Monaco V8s. These cars became mainstream, along with others under the Chrysler Corporation. The early 60s Dodge Dart was a huge sales success, despite having to deal with competitors from inside the family, Chrysler, DeSoto, and Plymouth. The upscale Polara gave the Dart chassis a few longer legs, but the mid-60s would show Dodge that sometimes bold design can be a tough mark to carry. Busy designs and odd headlights and fierce competition slowed Dodge sales. I mean, really. The 64 GTO, the 65 Mustang, the 1966 Chevelle, and 67 Camaro. They definitely constitute a Dodge distraction for the market. The company began to offer coupes in 1966 with the Polara's new Hemi generating 425 horsepower. It was more than noticed by racers, and the 66 Charger showed that Dodge was still in the game. The 1968 Charger dialed in a new design and provided a great bed for the incredible engines that Dodge would supply through the early 70s. The 426 Hemi, the 446 pack, heck, the 346 pack. Where would the thrill ride end? The Super Bee, based on the Dodge Coronet, was a two-door coupe produced from 68 through 70. It was the company's low-priced muscle car, but if you added the Hemi, the price jumped 33%. As a result, only 125 Super Bee Hemis were built in 68 and another 166 in 69. But if you wanted lightweight and a compact sport model, the Challenger of the early 70s set a high standard of lightweight and high power. These cars are very, very expensive treasures today. Leave it to the government to spoil the party. The mid-70s and all the 80s were choked, detuned, and pretty tepid designs and really questionable quality. The Japanese automakers were kicking some serious market tail. It was like the whole American auto industry gave up, save for a few trying to put Humpty back in his shell. We're trying to bring you the story of Dodge. However, the story of Chrysler, AMC, Renault, Mitsubishi, well, they're all interwoven in a twisted dance of life and death for each company. Lucky for Chrysler, a pissed-off Henry Ford II across town would send them a savior. As we present the next section of the Dodge story, be patient. There are more twists than a soap opera.
Time for a look in the Car Kicks toolbox.
In the toolbox today, a trio of handy tools for working on any car, truck, or bike. Gunk engine products. Gunk originally started as a degreaser called Engine Bright. As the story goes, the developer of Engine Bright was a rider, a motorcycle enthusiast, who was asked by a fellow rider to give me some of that gunk to get the grease off my bike, or something to that effect. From then on, the product was referred to as Gunk. And for more than 50 years, Gunk has been a most trusted name in cleaning and degreasing and has provided, solutions to tackle the toughest grease, grime, and gunk throughout the garage. If you haven't done an engine cleaning in a while, or if you've never done one, you might wonder why do it at all. Well, it's good to clean off built-up oil and grease from areas around your engine that could cause heat spots. They have the potential to reduce the life and efficiency of your engine. And that's your expensive, gee, I could have bought a hot tub instead of replacing my engine we're talking about. A few bucks for a can of Gunk could help you spot trouble before it gets serious. This is especially important for the cars we don't necessarily hold in as high esteem as our fun mobiles. Our daily drivers, they need some love too. If you clean its engine with foamy engine cleaner after each winter, you'll keep your engine free from salt and debris that can cause corrosion on vital engine parts. The parts, the ones that make you say at the parts counter, that little part is how much? After a degrease of your new barn find, you can use Gunk Foamy Engine Cleaner. It's specifically formulated to remove heavy dirt and road grime from cars, trucks, campers, RVs, ATVs, boat engines, and your power equipment too. I have seen some funky air compressors in garages. Don't let friends and family see that stuff. You know the feeling you get when you walk into a clean shop? Well, it's the same looking under the hood. Gunk Engine Protector is an engine detailer and protector that you follow up with. It leaves your engine with a protective layer of shine, and that's the way you want your gear to look. The outside can look like a star, but if you don't finish the job under the hood, it's like opening a cookie jar and finding something other than cookies in there. Get your toolbox together with Gunk Degreaser, Foamy Engine Cleaner, and Gunk Engine Protector. And that's today's Car Kicks Toolbox.
I don't know if I've told you this, but Mark Roman is an expert in classic cars, but he's also a expert in automotive radio. He's been a broadcaster in Phoenix and places all over the country for many, many years. And so we're really, really proud to have him as part of the Car Kicks team. He was out in Scottsdale and got this interview with a very interesting person. If you're a Dodge fan, and this is a kind of a Dodge-centric program today, you're going to really enjoy this interview with Chris Wilkins, car builder, prototyper, entrepreneur.
Spending a little bit of the morning talking to Chris Wilkins, a gentleman that I met over at Russo and Steel, and I'm just amazed at some of the things he's done. And he's telling me that he actually has another company that's actually kept him on the ground as well, too. And this deals with Viper parts. In fact, if you own a Viper, or maybe you just purchased a Viper, or maybe you want a Viper, somehow or another you might come across talking with Chris because he owns Viper car parts, and it's, one of the top 3 for Viper parts in the country?
Absolutely, actually worldwide. This was kind of a funny story. And under the blanket, everything that we have, company that controls all of this, which is mine as well. Nevertheless, the Viper car parts was a fascinating story. Back ending my career at ASU of 10 years, getting all these degrees, and I do the car business again. Of course, that's a funny story in itself. But nevertheless, I had another friend we were both pursuing our graduate degrees at ASU, and I had bought a Viper that was a light burn car, my first car I ever got. It was a 95 RT10, all black, and I was looking for parts. And every time I started to buy a part, I need basically interior, and a guy would say, well, I'll sell you the seats, but you got to take this hood as well. I didn't need a hood, but it was a package deal. Okay, so then I go to get the door panels, and the guy says, well, I'll sell you the door panels, but you got to take these mufflers and this bumper too for a package deal. All right, so now I became to accumulate these parts. And I asked my friend, and he says, you need to learn the internet. I'm telling you, the web is where it's at, Chris. And I was kind of anti-web back in the early 90s. I thought, well, this is kind of a crazy thing. But I said, you know what? I bet you there's some club. There's always a club. Go online and see if there's a Viper club or something like that. And that was like a Friday night, Saturday morning. He calls me and says, I put it on the web. It's gone. I just was like, okay, I'm going on the web. So I actually hooked up with at Scottsdale Community College, where I used to go. I had some other students that were friends of mine because I still had worked and team taught over there with some other professors. And they said, well, I know one kid that was in the program, and he was doing web design. I went and met with him, and he actually had about 5 of these kids, and they all were on the side of Camelback Mountain, the big infamous hotel mountain up there. And I got everybody to build the site. I have a programmer, I have a designer, I have the artist, the guy that writes the code, and they actually build these little games. They were building games for the internet that they compete back and forth. From the wall and structure to the characters to the programming to the sound effects, everything. He says, I tell you what, you lay out the storyboard, the whole website, and bring us 2 12-packs of Coca-Cola and 2 pizzas, and we'll build your site.
Good.
So I thought, all right. So I went up there, laid it all out. 6 hours later, I'm up on the web, and that was extremely successful, which still is today, but it just pushed me over the top. And, obviously from then on that point forward, I had moved into professional web designers later on. But that is what it all started with, and it became an international source for people that owned a Viper. And basically, it's an online junkyard. In-house for many years, I actually are manufacturer and a licensed new car dealer and dismantler in the state of Arizona. So, which you obviously have to be able to take these cars apart legally, get dismantle permits and so forth. So after doing that for a long time, I finally realized that I could, building this custom database, that I get to do database management where I match. So let's say you need a hood and one of my vendors in Florida has a hood. I can pull on my database and say hood. And he'll have 12 or 14 pictures every time we sell send volume next to it to show you if there's a crack, a scratch, depth gauge. So you know what you're getting. Through all the years, I can say, knock on wood, since 96 when I established Viper Car Parts, we've returned just under 5 parts ever, just because of that documentation.
Well, the great thing about the web, too, is it's made the ability to track people that have, any kind of vehicle. If I'm looking to purchase something, maybe I find something online that I like. Now that we have the web, I'm not afraid to purchase it. I know I can find parts just about anywhere, and I can track them down, and it sounds like you're one of the guys that can...
Well, I actually have a semi-truck trailer here full. We used to have it inside, but to optimize our inside space, we went ahead and purchased a semi-trailer here, and then I have additional storage a couple hours away up north. We have a garage up there that I keep some of the bigger parts that don't move on a more volume basis. But again, it's a niche business. I've always found great success within a niche myself. That's just how I am. Everything I try to chase is always composite oriented, whether it be, the replica car industry. I tried to focus again, starting out as well. And from there, that platformed me on to the high jump into the Viper realm, which has been extremely successful. Again, 2008, because of my diversification and being able to do these different things, I survived no problem because I had a little bit of business from all the different businesses that I do.
Now, let me ask you this, being that you actually work with carbon fiber, you work with molds and everything like that, do you actually reproduce any parts yet for Viper?
We actually have the molds to reach the Generation 2, which is a transitional, again, 96 to 2002. I have the full body molds for everything, from the roof, doors, in and out, fenders, complete hoods, everything. Some of the Gen 3 parts, and then Gen 4, which gets up to the newer style. I don't do a lot of those parts. I still locate, but not as much as far as inventory. The Gen 2 is still seems to be, in my opinion, again, based on my emails and correspondence with Viper owners, is the most sought-after car. It's the models that you'll see on the road. So that Generation 2, again, this is my opinion, but 96 to 02 is a bang for the buck. The value and the mass volumes that were made from 96 to 02. And again, and within that realm itself, you have the RT10, which is the convertible, and the GTS is the coupe. So you got the coupe guy, the convertible guy.
Out of curiosity, what percentage of your business actually comes from outside the country with Vipers? Is there a lot of kings and other people that actually own these, or what?
You name the country, and I've sold Belgium, anywhere you could practically name in the world, I've sent parts to. Percentage-wise, I would probably say 30%. Other big states, again, based on my experience, whether it be Cobra or Viper business or customized business, believe it or not, some of the biggest ones, obviously, California, Texas, Ohio is a mega metropolis for cars. Some New York, and then again Florida, obviously, are the big meccas for the car enthusiasts that I see that are and sell internationally. Now, as I mentioned to you at the show, I started getting into the Tri-5 Chevys. People are like, well, I thought you were the Viper guy. And the thing that's neat about it is all the contacts that I have, what I call spotters, that actually pay people that I've done business with, that have bought parts from me or that are shops, actually pay them to go look at a car for me. They send me pictures, check it out mechanically, physically, glass, body parts, rust or what have you. And then that's a way for me to be able to, I put a lot of my Viper spotters now looking for the Tri-5 Chevys. And at this time, even within the year, I think I'm going to switch to something else. What that's going to be right now, I haven't determined.
Yeah, it depends on how the market's going. But if you're looking for Viper car parts, where do you go to? What website?
That makes it easy. It's vipercarparts.com.
Chris Wilkins, thank you so much.
Thanks to Chris Wilkins for taking time out of his what must be incredibly busy life, and to Mark Roman for bringing it back home on Car Kicks.
Car Kicks will be right back.
It's the Car Kicks Car Cap. A great ball cap for just $10. You can be a part of the ruling elite with your Car Kicks Car Cap. Stop being laughed at by your mom. Get the hat. Just $10 plus tax and handling, and an agent of a semi-governmental agency will deliver it to wherever you get your U.S. mail. Get the Car Kicks Car Cap today at carkicks.com. That's KARKIX.com.
Now, here's Bob Lang.
The late 70s and early 80s for Dodge saw the Dynasty and the Monacos. They didn't really build much of a dynasty. Police agencies and taxicab companies of the era loved the Dodge engine line. 383, the 318, the 225/6 were bulletproof workhorses. The Dodge Diplomat was big as a police cruiser and a cab, and served all over the U.S. Those fleets only go so far. The fortunes of parent Chrysler went south, and in 1979, Chairman Lee Iacocca went to Congress to try and save the companies with loan guarantees. Not actual loans, like some people we know. Chrysler released the first of the K-Car line, the Dodge Aries and the Plymouth Reliant, in 1981. Ugly little spuds they were. They showed Chrysler was willing to get small like the imports and use four-cylinder engines like the imports. The next big move for Dodge came with a blend of truck and car. While the full-size B100, B200, and B300 Dodge vans were favorites for campers and businessmen, Dodge and Chrysler had bigger ideas just ahead. Lee Iacocca and Hal Sperlich had an idea for a modern minivan when they were back at Ford. Henry Ford, too, had rejected Iacocca and Sperlich's idea, and a prototype that was built for it as well. It was a prototype of a minivan. In 1974, it would be 10 years later when the Chrysler minivan hit the market like a tidal wave. When Lee Iacocca followed Sperlich to Chrysler Corporation, together they created the T115 minivan, a prototype built by Carrington in Michigan that was to become the 1984 Caravan and Voyager. Since then, Chrysler minivans have outsold other minivans in the United States with over 13 million produced. Only recently has Chrysler ceded the top-selling minivan spot to the Honda Odyssey, and that's only if you separate out Dodge Grand Caravan and Chrysler Town & Country sales. To say the minivan saved Dodge is not far-fetched. Still, Dodge wanted a hot rod, and it got one, sorta. Call it a pre-Subaru WRX without four-wheel drive. It came from the Dodge Shelby connection. Remember, fans, this was the dark ages, when government air and safety regs had choked cars down and made them into rubber baby buggy bumpers. Yes, dear, I said it. According to Consumer Guide editors in their piece, Shelby Joins Chrysler, the Mustang experience soured Shelby on being an automaker, so he turned to tending to his other businesses. A few years later, Iacocca was fired by Henry Ford II in a celebrated row that was as personal as it was public. Later that year, Iacocca made a celebrated move to the presidency of a weakened Chrysler Corporation, where he was named board chairman in 1979. After helping pull Chrysler from the financial brink, Iacocca called an old friend, Carroll Shelby, to add some needed pizzazz to the corporate lineup. Performance was starting to make a comeback throughout Detroit, or at least trying to. Carroll agreed, and Chrysler duly announced his arrival in 1982 as a performance consultant, who promised to bring excitement back to the auto industry. The first result of the Shelby-Iacocca partnership was the Chrysler-Shelby California Development Center near Los Angeles. It was assigned to work with Chrysler engineers to develop future models and help to devise specific performance packages for Chrysler's Excitement division. Two results were the 83-86 Shelby Charger Coupe and the Omni GLH, which stood for Goes Like Hell. It was a hatchback, essentially Shelbyized version of those workaday front-drive subcompacts. Both offered extra power, tighter suspensions, distinctive styling touches, and attractively low prices. Remember, we were coming out of a recession, and safety and Fed regulations had made all our cars underpowered rubber baby buggy bumpers. I said it again. Then in February '86, Shelby and Chrysler Motors announced the formation of Shelby Automobiles Incorporated in Whittier, California, to build high performance, at least for the day, Dodge-based limited editions. In March '86, they introduced the first Shelby marked car since the final Shelby Mustang GT, a quicker, more powerful GLH. It had a 2.2-liter turbocharged Chrysler four-cylinder engine that Shelby tweaked to 175 horsepower with an intercooler and equal-length intake runners and other little tweaks here and there. Helped by a mandatory 5-speed manual transmission, the GLH-S offered brisk 8-second 0-60 performance and truly epic front-wheel drive torque steer. It'd take your arm off, Jim. These were tough times for automakers, government regulation and foreign competition turning the industry upside down. Dark days for car guys. In '87, the Dodge Shelby team put out a Lancer based on Dodge's recently announced H-body four-door hatchback sedan. The Shelby Lancer took Carroll to a new realm, the high-style European sports sedan. Equipment was lavish, power everything, all-disc brakes, and special Shelby touring suspension. Good for .8 G. Handling was sharp, and it ran 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds in most of the published road tests, but it was not exactly smooth. Shift action was clunky, the ride was jarring, and turbo lag was always a PO. After completing just 800 Shelby Lancers, they turned to the Dodge Shadow Compact and produced the Shelby CSX, a two-door hatchback sedan. It weighed less, was quicker, and got 7.1 in the 0 to 60 in a standing quarter of 15. Back then, that was huge. The struggle for American performance would continue until about 1994. It would be the 1994 Dodge Viper that brought the words Dodge and muscle car back together. Chrysler and Daimler-Benz merged in 1998 to form Daimler Chrysler. In May of 2007, Daimler Chrysler announced the sale of Chrysler Group to an American equity firm, and the twisted path that followed for a few years was quite mind-numbing. The sale of substantially all of Chrysler's assets to New Chrysler, organized as Chrysler Group LLC, was completed on 10 June 2009. The federal government provided support for the deal, with U.S. taxpayers kicking in $6.6 billion in financing, which was paid to Old Chrysler and a newly formed company called Old Carco LLC, who took over remaining assets and liabilities, which remained in bankruptcy. This transfer excluded 8 manufacturing sites, the majority of real estate holdings, and contracts with 789 dealers in the U.S., many of who were very, very upset. Dodge is still alive today in partnership with Italy's Fiat. On May 24, 2011, Chrysler repaid its $7.6 billion in loans to the United States taxpayers and Canadian government. The Dodge brothers' story is unknown to many people, even to this day, and even to people who are familiar with Ford and his successful Model T. The Dodge brothers were not from a wealthy family, but through hard work, they built a business empire that is still alive and prospering more than 85 years later. One that survived a depression, 2 world wars, and the economic collapse of 2008. This is the epitome of the American dream, and shows that success in business isn't necessarily who you know, but what you know and how you apply that knowledge. The Dodge brothers and Henry Ford are also a good example of teamwork, as they laid the groundwork for the modern car and set the example for modern car manufacturers to follow. The story of the Dodge brothers is inspiring and should be seen in its proper place in American history. The complementary skill sets of the brothers were the spark that set Olds, Ford, then Dodge on the world stage. Maybe, as the new Chrysler ad says, it is halftime in America and the second half is beginning. And what we need to win the game is to dip into that American dream, reach out to who you know with what you know, and apply that knowledge in a teamwork environment. Who knows, maybe they'll even get the message in Washington. We'll be back.
Car Kicks will be right back.
The Blackhawk Automotive Galleries are like no place you've ever experienced. Located an hour southeast of San Francisco in Danville, California, the Blackhawk encompasses nearly 70,000 square feet. With 4 exhibition galleries, an automotive reference library, and a museum store, plus a special events area and meeting room. The Blackhawk is a Smithsonian affiliate museum, open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more about the Blackhawk at blackhawkmuseum.org. See you there. The words Mopar, Dodge, Hot Rod, Muscle Car, they all go together real well. And one of the most incredible 70 CUDAs we've ever seen was at this year's Super Nationals. And Mark Roman was with the owner.
And it's Car Kicks at the Super Nationals here in Albuquerque. What a weekend and what a CUDA I'm looking at. This is a 70. It's a 426 Hemi. And I got the guy with me that actually restored this. This is Greg Trammell. Greg, tell me about this car.
I originally got it out of Florida about
6 years ago. I had a few others, primarily Camaros, and the Cudas were so outrageously popular at that time. I said, I need to have one of these things. And I was a little manic, so I went and got one, and it was not particularly good when we got it, but we made it good. The guy that I originally teamed up with to build this car is a fellow named Marlis Williams. Lives in Phoenix, and he was one of the original Mopar engineers on this car, helped design the thing, and nobody knew him better than he does. And so it was there with him about 2 years, and he had some health problems, so we had to bring the car back over here to do the final touches up. And a fellow locally named Ed Blimmel and I finished it up, and he's a mechanical genius is what he is. I haven't seen a motor he can't flip upside down and make it run better at any time. This is actually a 472 Hemi. The engine is not original to the car. It's I always like bigger is better type thing.
Oh, sure.
And it'll generate a little excitement. It was it's frustrating, a lot of this little nitpicky stuff going on, because these cars, when we were doing this, very difficult to find parts. The parts and they're extremely expensive. They're starting to reproduce some of these parts now. There's a little piece of chrome on the back. There were two pieces we could locate nationally. One was $2,500. The other was $1,000. I got the $1,000 piece of chrome. I mean, it weighs like 3 ounces. It's ridiculous, but that's what it called for.
It's amazing what it takes to put these things back to life. Now, you've got a book here. It looks like a stack of photos. Tell me about this as well, too. Tell me about the process.
Well, I think it's good. I want to document what we did with this car. I don't want to put it out here and people say, well, there's something hidden or some junk hiding inside this thing. No, we stripped this thing down, and we documented with photographs all the way through it. That it's not completely full of photos. It's about half full of photographs. But we took it apart down to bare metal, dipped it, and that's where we found some rust problems. And I had a welder that was one of the more interesting welders I've ever met. He was really, really good at what he did. He's an unusual character. Didn't fit stereotype whatsoever. His wife did, but he didn't. He was the opposite of his wife. I'll just leave it at that. But he was a real artist, and we had to buy some metal. We bought actually a quarter panel, and we just cut off the piece we needed from the quarter panel. Instead of the original metal was too good to just throw out, and it is just way better than what you can buy now. But that little piece we needed, so that's what we did. And then all the stuff that we had to put on it, like the engine, and we actually have a period correct battery that I broke not long ago. So
that's okay. The Optima will work.
Yeah, it's a pretty good battery. It'll crank this thing over pretty good, and it's a big old engine, so it takes a lot to get it going. But we did. This is maybe the only Cuda that has an air conditioner in it. Couldn't get them that way. We put it in there. It was in Phoenix. It's just hotter than blazes, and it's so discreet. You have to actually look for it. You cannot. It's hard to find. It really fits in the car really well. We thought we were probably going to leave it in Phoenix and maybe sell it there, and didn't do that, obviously, and brought it back over here to finish it up. And I kind of like not being in 300-degree temperatures.
I did a couple of summers up there. That's nasty.
It's a miserable place. So we put that in there, and which is a little bit different than original. And but everything else is pretty accurate.
Now, Mopar used to do, and I'm trying to find out if this is the original name for the paint. Is it Top Banana?
Lemon Twist. There is a Top Banana, I believe.
That's right. Dodge had a Top Banana
or something like that. The Dodge names and the Plymouth names are a little bit different. Same paint, but this is Lemon Twist.
Well, it's just incredible. I just got back from the Bear Jackson. This is nicer than anything that I saw up there.
I didn't even know that was on. I'm always trying to make an attempt to watch that, and I got busy with other things, and I wasn't even aware of it. And I like to specifically watch these particular cars because at one time they were just the hottest thing around, and they kind of lost their luster a little bit, and Shelby's came on real strong, and I was just kind of curious of what these cars are bringing now.
You're bringing a pretty penny. I know on Mopar kind of peaked back about 2007, 2008. Right. And now you've got some of the Shelbys that are coming on and a little bit with the resurgence of the Camaro. But I think you got something here, and I'd hold on to this.
Well, I probably will because I don't think I can get my money out of it. Except I do have a fella. I train a lot of baseball kids. I got some of them in the major leagues, and there's one wants me to take it over to spring training because he thinks his shortstop will buy this car. So I may trailer it over there and see what he thinks.
And your cousin's Alan Trammell, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but we were not close. It's so distant, there was not really a relationship there. Although I claim him, he doesn't claim me.
What's your next project?
We have a '69 Camaro Z28, numbers matching car, and that is about 80% done. We just have to finish putting like the lights and the stuff in, and then we're doing a '69 Camaro. I'm a little confused on this car. The X11 cars were the Copos. This is an X11 car, and it's a big block car. And the engine that came in, it was not original to it. It came with a 427, but it wasn't a really great 427. I mean, it would go fast, but it wasn't a great 427. And we put together the parts to build an L88. The original, well, it's not numbers matching, of course, but it got all the right parts to build an original L88 engine, and we'll put that in there. And there's a way to find out if it was a Copo. I doubt it was. I don't think I could possibly be that lucky. But if it's not, it was an original SS car, and I'm going to leave it an SS car, but I'm just going to put a better engine in it.
Well, this year they had 2 reproduction Copos up there, and they went for about $55,000 a piece.
That's about what I'd need to break even on that thing, probably.
I got a feeling, but this is absolutely gorgeous. And Greg, thanks for spending some time with us at Car Kicks.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks to Greg Trammell and to Mark Roman on the floor of the Super Nationals for this year. Very special segment coming up next. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back with more Car Kicks.
Are you in an automotive-related industry? If you'd like to advertise on Car Kicks, we offer social media, web, and on-air opportunities to automotive-based businesses that want to be heard by this very special audience. People who take action and get things done. Auto enthusiasts with the means to use products and services provided by quality companies. We have special programming that gives you the opportunity to get your message out with more than just a 60-second ad. To find out more, use the contact page at carkicks.com.
Car Kicks' own Ellis Martin on his Sunday sabbatical to the $1 Million Breakfast Club, no doubt in one of his rare and beautiful Mustangs, came upon a rare Bentley Mallalieu Special, one of 5 two-seaters built. Now, you heard that segment earlier, and if you missed it, catch it on the website or on our Facebook page. But wait, there's more. He also came upon a rare American-built performance car from the late 90s. I know you say late 90s, American-built performance. How rare can it be? Well, it was the first car built from scratch and designed with unique features by Carroll Shelby, powered by an Indy Racing Series Olds Aurora engine. It's the Shelby Series 1. The Series 1 is the only car ever designed and engineered by Carroll Shelby from ground up. All the others are models produced by other manufacturers and modded by Shelby, making the Series 1 a huge expense in testing and certification, required to conform to all that government stuff, like the 1999 Federal Motor Safety Vehicle Standards. I'm not harping on all of them. I mean, some things are good. But when you certified a car that it is certified, you shouldn't have to go back and certify it again because it's been out of production for 2 years. Once completed, a total of 249 production Series 1s were constructed by Shelby, all as 1999 models. During production, Venture Corporation purchased Shelby American. In 2004, after a bankruptcy by Venture, unrelated to the acquisition of Shelby American, Carroll Shelby's new company, Shelby Automobiles Incorporated, bought up the Series 1 assets, including enough components to make a couple more Series 1s complete. But because the Federal Motor Safety Vehicle Standard Certificate had expired and the cost to recertify the car was prohibitive, all Series 1s produced after that date were completed as component cars and delivered with no engine or transmission. The Series 1 was produced with or without superchargers. Supercharged cars were also outfitted with larger brakes, a heavy-duty clutch, and it was definitely in the supercar category with a 0 to 60 time of 3.2 seconds. Some Series 1s had power steering, power disc brakes, factory air, power windows, and an AM/FM CD audio system. Now, the body panels were all carbon fiber and fiberglass laminate. The engine, torque tube, transaxle, and damper mounts were all rubber isolated from the frame. And the supercharged prototypes produced near 600 horsepower and 530 foot-pounds of torque. The Shelby Series 1 is a unique and special part of American automotive history. Now here's Ellis Martin with the owner in Marina del Rey, California.
I'm with Sandy, who owns this beautiful Shelby. It's a 1999 Shelby, and we're at the Marina del Rey $1 Million Breakfast Club in Southern California, Los Angeles County. And Sandy, why don't you tell me about this car? Let's talk about that air scoop right away.
The air scoop's reversed, and people often ask me if the air comes around from the backside and goes in. And the answer is no. Shelby was a race car driver, and he knew how to design cars the proper way. The radiator is between the front bumper and that reverse scoop. Air comes into the front of the car, goes through the radiator, cooling the water. The air becomes hot, and you don't want to have hot air blowing on an engine you're trying to cool off. So the air is funneled out of the car through that reverse scoop and over the slope, which gives a lot of downforce on the front axle, so the car handles better the faster it goes. The car will handle better at 120 than it will at 60.
What are some of the other features about the car that are worth noting?
The aluminum frame, the carbon fiber body. The car is extremely light. There's no extras in it. There's no trunk. There's no spare tire. There's no airbags. The car weighs 2,600 pounds, which is extremely light for a car on the road.
What kind of engine is this?
This is the Aurora V8, 4-liter, turning out 320 horsepower. And it's the only time that Shelby worked with General Motors. And he wanted to do something different. At the time, he wasn't working with Ford. Everybody thinks of Shelby and Ford.
So it's actually an Oldsmobile engine?
Right.
Okay.
You can see the aluminum frame, the workmanship on it. Another cute thing is with 249 made, this is serial number 251. And everybody wonders about that. Well, they skipped a few serial numbers around, and I actually know of 3 other cars that have higher serial numbers than this. But this is one of the last.
So that makes it more valuable than, let's say, the middle of the road number.
Well, less bugs in it. Shelby had a lot of trouble getting the cars produced and getting them out. The first ones that came out, he didn't even have tops for them, but he had to get them out. And there's a whole book written on how he overcame a lot of the problems in getting it out business-wise. A book called Snake Bit.
Sandy, thanks a lot for joining us today on Car Kicks.
Thank you.
The $1 Million Breakfast Club get-together in Marina Del Rey, California. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Ellis Martin, for taking time out from cruising in one of your beautiful, rare Mustangs to take that interview and send it on to us. And we'll be back with more Car Kicks in just a moment. The Blackhawk Automotive Galleries are like no place you've ever experienced. Located an hour southeast of San Francisco in Danville, California, the Blackhawk encompasses nearly 70,000 square feet. With 4 exhibition galleries, an automotive reference library, and a museum store, plus a special events area and meeting room. The Blackhawk is a Smithsonian affiliate museum, open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more about the Blackhawk at blackhawkmuseum.org. See you there. Are you in an automotive-related industry? If you'd like to advertise on Car Kicks, we offer social media, web, and on-air opportunities to automotive-based businesses that want to be heard by this very special audience. People who take action and get things done. Auto enthusiasts with the means to use products and services provided by quality companies. We have special programming that gives you the opportunity to get your message out with more than just a 60-second ad. To find out more, use the contact page at carkicks.com. I guess the time is drawing near. You know, we really focused on Dodge this week. But, well, we had Chevy last week. We've covered Shelby and Ford on previous episodes, as well as Scottsdale and other events, bringing you the unusual, the news, places to go, people to meet, hot rods, sports cars, and trucks. We haven't done trucks. We'll have to try and do that some week ahead. You just never know, do you? The saga of Saab could come back. I don't know. But I encourage you to join us on our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and I guess you better join us right here next week for more Car Kicks.
That's all for now. See you right here next time with more Car Kicks. Car Kicks is a production of Spirited USA, who is solely responsible for its content. Copyright 2011. All rights reserved. Join us on the web at carkicks.com. That's KARKIX.com. And on Facebook and Twitter. Hasta la vista, baby. Ciao. You're free to go on your own recognizance. See you later. Bye-bye.